Hello guys, today I'm doing the part 2 of the revealing the message, revealing the hidden message on this paper. If you saw part 1 of the science experiment, that will be on my channel. If you want to go see part 1, this is part 2. Let's uncover the message. If you want to see what I wrote, you won't be able to see what I wrote until I reveal it. But if you want to see me writing it, or kind of writing it, go check out the other video, part 1. In that video, you will see me grabbing the paper, writing on the paper, putting water into the glass, putting pigment into the glass, and then that's what you'll see in part 1. In part 2, which is this one, I'll be putting my paintbrush in the pigment water, and I will be revealing what it says on this paper because it's in white and you can't really see what I wrote. But when I put my paintbrush in the water, pigment water, and then I reveal it on the paper with my paintbrush, then you'll be able to kind of see what I wrote. So here I go, dipping it in the water. It's clear, but there's that. Okay, it's kind of working. It's not how I envisioned it would work. Not how I envisioned it would work. I mean, I thought it would work better than this, in all honesty. Just kind of getting the paper wet. So let's try that again. However, this time I'm not going to put water in here. Instead, I'm going to grab a new paper. Grab some pigment, which is going to be okay, it's in day 9. It's in day 9 because I can feel it. Yep. Okay. So I have my new paper. My new paper and if I can find it. Oh yeah, I also need day 13. This is day 13, or not 14 is my pause. Bad boy is my crayon. I'm gonna write a different message this time. There we go. So I wrote on there, on my little thingy, which you guys probably can't see because it's all in white. Except maybe for the high you can see. And now we're going to grab our pigment. Now I'm gonna use blue because that's what the pamphlet suggests, or the instructions suggest. They suggest using, or not. I mean, they don't suggest using one color more than the other color. They really don't say what color to use, but in the instructions they are using blue as far as I can tell. So I'm gonna open up my blue pigment and squirt. This time I'm gonna use no water because I think the water was affecting how it was working on the paper. So I'm gonna put about 4 drops. Oopsie daisy. Let me put the thingy back on. Oopsie daisy. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. Yep. I think. I'm just gonna kind of just stir that up. Yep. Okay. Yep. Blue is the one that has to work because it's dyeing the paintbrush, and it's also not making the paint watered down. I'm trying to grab. I'm gonna grab a paper towel so that I can do this on paper towel, and so I have 2 paper towels, one with the hidden message note on it, and then another paper towel with the pigment and the glass on it. And as you can tell, this has no water in it. This was the exact same cup that I used with the red pigment. And you can tell that if you mix water with the pigment, it will not work because it has to be like fully colored. It's actually working. If you can see the dye on the paintbrush, it's actually working. It kind of looks like green. But blue is going to work the best on here, I believe. Because in the instructions, they used blue. So now I'm going to paint over the message. So hopefully we'll be able to see what I wrote. So yeah, it's actually working now that there is no water in the glass. I poured out all the water. It's kind of like watercolor, if you know what I mean. Like, if you've ever painted with watercolor, it's really, really, really cool. You get the same effect if you just write with a white crayon on paper, and then you go over it with like a black crayon. It will do the exact same effect. But this looks like we are almost drawing on watercolor, if you know what I mean. Or not, yeah. If we're almost drawing on watercolor, but yeah. This was the exact same glass I had the red pigment in with the water. So I've learned my lesson. Do not mix, if you're doing this project with the pigment instead of the crayon, make sure you do not add water with the pigment. Make sure you only add pigment to the glass instead of pigment and water, because then you won't get the effect that you are looking for, and you won't be able to see if you wrote on the paper, you won't really be able to see your message, and then you'll have to restart if you do pigment with water. That's why you only need to do pigment and dab up some pigment on your brush, dab it off a little bit, and then paint on your page, and then you'll be able to see your result. And trust me, this experiment is really fun. I love drawing, like, I've done this before with crayon, with like the white and black crayon paper. It's really, 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 really awesome. And all that you really need is either crayons and paper or pigment and paper. and paintbrush. So yeah, really cool. It's actually really fun too. It's like you're doing painting, but like you're revealing a message, if you know what I mean. I'm pretty sure if you wanted to, you could also use red or yellow pigment to uncover the message, but I'm using blue pigment. Now, speaking of which, just to kind of say this, even though you might write something on the paper, it might not come out as clear as you wrote it. So by that I mean, if you wrote a message on paper and you're trying to reveal what you wrote, you're not going to be able to reveal what you wrote, one, if you don't use a white crayon, but also it's not going to come out either way if you use a white crayon or not. If you do not want to use water pigment, just use plain pigment, and still it might seem like you spelled correctly on the paper in white crayon. But again, two things: you can't see what you're spelling, so you kind of have to guess by memory, and kind of go by spelling as you're writing it too, because as you're going to be reviewing it with the pigment and the brush on the paper, you're gonna want it still might not come out as you want it to when you put the pigment on the paper. So just keep that in mind. What you write on the paper with the white crayon, it still might not come out how you envision it to on the paper. Also, make sure you dab any excess off. This is a very messy project, just FYI. Because you are handling pigment here. You are not handling like water. You're actually handling pigment and pigment stains, as I've learned from the couple experiments. It's almost like painting, but you're painting with pigment instead of painting with like actual paint. You're painting with pigment. This is a very messy project, partly because your hands will get stained, your countertop will get stained. So I highly recommend you lay down some paper to help with the staining. And by paper I mean paper towel. Again, type of paintbrush does not matter, but I would highly recommend the paintbrush that you use. I highly recommend that paintbrush to be like a bristle one, like this, like a thin bristle one, instead of the one with I'll grab what I mean at the end of the video, but like the paintbrush that is like chunky or whatever, don't use those. Use like a normal artist paintbrush, the one that you would use for like watercolor or whatever. These are the ones that I find perfect for doing this craft / experiment. Again, you can use whatever color you want. It advertises that on the instructions they are using blue pigment. So I'm using blue, but I'm pretty sure red, yellow, green, any of those will work as well. But if you do want to see your message, I would highly recommend you use blue, because the other colors like yellow, green, or whatever, they might not work as well as using blue to decover your message. Discover your messages is what I'm trying to say. And also you might get to the point where your glass where your glass does not have any more pigment in it. That is alright. Just continue with how much pigment you have left in the container. And then you can also stop and put your paintbrush down, mind you, on the paper towel, and just add a little bit more pigment into your glass. 4 drops should do the trick. That's how much I do. You can do more or less. I would usually do 4 and not more. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then it might look like legit nothing, but if you look, there is like pink dot on there, and when you get your brush and you stir it around, there is actual more pigment than you think. But if you do want to add more, which I'm gonna add 2 more drops right here, 1, 2, then yeah, and there we go. Again, do not add water to this like I made them take up. Only use pigment. And I will also be testing out 3 other methods in this video, or not 3 other colors in this video on different, on the same paper, only on different papers, but the same type of paper, so that we can see if other colors work or if blue is the only one that works, in case you guys want to test out different colors. Also, before painting, make sure you tap on the glass to kind of get any excess paint off your brush, because see, it will first appear blue if you're using blue, and then it will kind of like dual as you're painting. Again, keep in mind that while you're painting, what you write on the paper, or what you intend to write on the paper with your white crayon, might not come out as how you want it. And by that I mean, you might say, oh, you might say like, oh, I'm gonna write blah blah, like so and so. Well, let me just say, when you write on paper, and then you want to cover it with the pigment, let me just say, also, you cannot do this with food coloring. I would not advise you to do this with food coloring. It might also not work, so that's also another reason why you don't want to do it with food coloring. But my other reason is that not only does it stain like the pigment, but it might not work. So yeah, you also might want to think of what you want to write on the paper, and as you're writing on the paper, you also want to think of, will it actually show up? So write what you want to write, and try to correctly spell it. I tried to write what I felt I would like to write, but if you can see, it's kind of showing up, but it's showing up in, like, I don't even understand what I wrote here. Maybe you guys can understand, but I cannot understand what I wrote. And all the white is the is the what I wrote with the white crayon. I would highly recommend that. It still not might show up, even though you might want it. Even though you're coloring it with pigment after you're done with the magic / white crayon on the paper, still might not show up on the paper correctly or the right spelling. So keep that in mind. Another thing is I would highly recommend you invest in some paper towels while doing this, because it is pigment, it does stain, and yeah. I'd highly recommend that you double or triple stack your paper towels so that it does not instantly go onto the counter. So that you I would highly recommend that you double stack your paper towels, and maybe you triple stack them, double stack them, something like that, so that it's not just one paper towel, and then if the dye goes through that one paper towel, it hits on the counter. I would make sure that you double stack your paper towels so that you have one on top of the other one, on top of the other one, if not on top of the other one, to make sure that it does not stain your counter. This is really, really, really relaxing. Also, it might get to the point and yeah, double stacking or triple stacking your paper towels is always necessary, because one, we're handling pigment. We don't want it to get on the counter or wherever we are working, but also we also don't want it to pigment if it spills off the paper, the page or the paper. Then it will go onto the counter. We don't want that. So either triple or double stack your paper towels, or quadruple stack your paper towels. Or you can put on newspaper or anything like that. Just something that will absorb your pigment and it won't absorb it into the counter, if you know what I mean. Also, you might come to the time. Hold on, I'll tell you guys in a moment. You might come to the point where your glass is empty and you don't have no more pigment in the glass. That's alright. Just continue with that color pigment. And just pour it back in the glass. Again, I'd recommend at least 4 drops of pigment. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then if you want to do an extra 1 more, go ahead. 5. And then again, it's off. It might not look like a lot, but today's in actuality, there's a lot of pigment in the glass. It's just you have to stir it up, and then you get the pigment in the glass. So now I'm just gonna paint. So see how better it is working? It's working way better than if I added water. So note to self, do not add water. If I cannot say that too many times. And it never hurts to go over the same area that you just painted over twice or more times than that. Again, I would highly recommend. Hold on, no. Again, it never ever does. It also helps if you so of course your paper will be really damp after this. I would highly recommend you either let it dry overnight or you set it out in the sun to dry. But because you are handling pigment, but if you want to, you can go over that exact same area that you just went over multiple times, or because it never hurts to do that, or or you can also, but yeah, another thing that I want to say is that you might come into these white spots across your paper, and you might be, what's that from? It's actually from the magic white crayon that you use to draw your wording. So yeah, also, since we are using pigment, it is good that you either set this out to dry overnight or you set it out in the sun to dry, because you don't want the dye or pigment to transfer anywhere. So yeah, not sure if you guys can see that, but I said hi. That one's pretty much obvious. Hi y'all. That turned into a T, but all right. Something we. That one's we. I meant that to be an A, but that looks like AR. I mean AL. Or sideways V. This is supposed to be we are, but I messed up on that. We are. It says something December. That one I can tell is I kind of tried to make it look like December down there, but as you can see, I awfully failed. So I'm gonna let this set because again it's wet. What I'm gonna do is you're gonna want to pour out your glass because make sure when you are changing colors for your next page, or if you want to do this again, make sure that you always clean out your glass between each color / pigment, because you do not want the colors to mix. And do not use soap or dishwashing liquid. All you have to do is just clean inside the sink with some water and it will be good to go. You can use the same glass and do the next pigment and just keep cleaning up the glass and reusing the same glass and then doing the same pigment. Different colors of pigment, or you can use different glasses for each color of pigment. It's really up to you.
Up to you. The world is your oyster.
I'm now going to put the blue back inside of day 9, and I'm now going to use the color green. So we'll see how green works. Again, we're gonna want to grab another piece of paper. I'm just using this paper, guys. I have tons of paper laying around this house. I'm just using this paper. So if you are using to-do list paper instead of regular notebook paper, you don't want to put it on the to-do side. You actually want to put it on the back white plain side. So you're gonna flip it over to where this part is exposed, and to where you're drawing on this part and not this part. So you're now gonna pour your pigment into your glass. Again, usually 4 drops will work. Less is more. 1, or if you want to do more, you can, but I am just doing 4. Mind you, there is a little bit of water in here from the last color. But actually, you don't want any water in the glass. No water, one bit. You don't want no water in the glass one bit. So
So you want a lot of water in the glass?
you're gonna make sure no water in the glass. Put that over to the side. And now you want your glass to be completely cleaned out. Grab your pigment, put about four drops in there. I'm now using the reason I'm trying blue, green, and yellow, and even red is to see if they will work to go over your to go over this paper. I mean to draw over this paper. I'm trying to see other colors like green or yellow or red will work, because we tried blue and we already know that blue works, and that blue is probably the common color that you guys will reach for when you guys want to do this experiment. So of course you guys know that blue works, but I'm testing out the other colors, yellow and green and red, to see if these colors will work also to draw on the paper and reveal the message. Because I know some people might want to use yellow, blue, green, or yellow, red, or green. So again, put 4 drops. 1, 2, 3, 4. That was 5 more, but I added I think about 7 drops maybe. But you're gonna want to close that. These balls have a lot of pigment, so you can use them again and again. Grab your paintbrush. Again, no water, and just kind of swish the pigment around on the bottom of the glass. Put that over to the side. Now you're gonna open up. There. You're gonna want to open up day 9, or not day 9. Day 14, or just have this on hand. It's your magic crayon. You're gonna want to write on your paper. So I'm gonna write something like salt and pepper, just something simple. Again, you can write whatever you want. Mama, how do you spell salt?
Huh?
How do you spell salt?
You know how to spell salt, you think?
SALT.
Yes. How do you spell salt?
How do you spell pepper?
Are you insane?
So I'm gonna do and pepper. So I'm pretty sure you guys cannot see that, but I wrote salt and pepper. Now you're gonna just want to draw over your message. Oh, it's working. So yeah, if you do want to use other colors like green, blue, or I'm pretty sure green, yellow, and blue will all work. So if you want to use those colors, you can. I'm pretty sure red will also work, but I'm going to be testing out the yellow and red after the green just to see if they work as well, which I'm expecting them to as well. So yes, we do know so far that if you want to use green and blue, you can. Paint, just paint and paint away. You want to know until you grow someday. 'Cause we're gonna paint, 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 paint the picture all day. Paint the picture all day. Paint the picture all day. Paint, 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 paint the picture all the way. Cause see, if you spell something in big, bold, to get the picture to drawing or not, picture or drawing or wording to turn out right, you want to write it or draw it in big, bold letters, or big, bold. Yeah, big. If you're doing an experiment, if you're doing this and you're,
Package.
who is it?
FedEx.
I know, but who is it?
I don't know. I won't know. He's dropping it off right now.
Um.
It's a surprise.
So if you are want to do this, but with the lettering, highly recommend that you do it in big bold letters if you want what you're writing to turn out right, and then if you're doing it in picture form, then just kind of do it in creativity. But yeah. What? You? I thought that was mine.
It's for you.
Oh.
I have to wrap it. Yeah.
Wait, if you're drawing something and you want it, if you're writing something with the magic crayon and you want it to be in like in big bold colors.
Please tell your audience everyone to get a flu shot. Because if not, they'll be dying like cancer.
But if you are wanting to write something, draw in big bold colors. Again, you don't have to have magic crayon, but you do have to have a white crayon at least. And I advise you, do not do not add water to the pigment, because if you do, you'll have water pigment and then it will not work. So again, your cup might lose pigment and then you'll have none. Just keep adding pigment until your page is color derized. There we go.
Still gonna try it, but I don't think it'll work. Alexa, thank my driver.
Glad you enjoyed your most recent delivery. We'll share your thanks with our delivery partner, USPS.
So I did mine, and here's what it looks like. It says salt. You probably can't see the and, but it says salt, pepper, and it says and somewhere in there, but that says salt, and then that one says pepper. So yeah. So yeah, I'm not gonna try the other two colors, yellow and red, but I know if blue and green works, then I know yellow and red will too. So if you want to try this experiment, all you need is paper towels, a magic crayon, colorless crayon, in white, and that means a Crayola crayon will work. And then you also need a black crayon if you want to do this the crayon way. A cup and a paintbrush. No water, and some different colors of pigment. If you want to do this multiple times, you'll need yellow, blue, green, or red. Any of those colors will work. If you're doing it my way, if you're doing it the Crayola way, you will need a black and white crayon and some paper. Or if you're doing it my way, you really only need the crayon aspect of this. If you're doing it my way, and you're my way, you'll need paper towels, white crayon, glass or cup, and a paintbrush. Preferably, there we go, a glass cup so that you can see what you're doing, a paintbrush, and some pigments in yellow, green, red, any of those colors. I'm pretty sure you can also do it in purple too, but it just won't look as pretty. But if you do want to do it in purple, go ahead and do that. So yeah. Thank you guys for watching this video. Yeah. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share. And woo! And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye, y'all.